my name is Tony Godown, co-founder of the paranormal group GRIP, Ghostly Research and Investigation of the Paranormal. We were founded in 2011 by myself and Jesse West. Since then, we've added members and have done over 30 cases thus far, ranging from houses, motels, bars, to schools, jails, and even sanatoriums. This is our debut podcast, and I'm flying solo tonight, so I won't ramble any longer than I have to. Future episodes, I plan on having guests and other members of the GRIP team join me. Tonight, I will be talking about our first case of the 2018 calendar year, the Malvern Manor in Malvern, Iowa. Some of you may have seen this place featured on TLC's Paranormal Lockdown. Those of you unfamiliar with the place, a bit of the history and the claims. It started as a hotel in the 1880s, eventually it became a nursing home, and a group home for the developmentally disabled. It's said it was closed due to abuse allegations and other mismanagement. As far as the claims go, there is a lounge area from the motel era, and there are a couple of wheelchairs they have placed in there. They have tape on the ground marking where the wheelchairs sit, and very frequently they have the wheelchairs move around. Actually, the tour guide told us that he's found it on the other side of the room, up against the wall before. One of the occupants of the group home was a schizophrenic woman with over a dozen personalities, referred to commonly as Gracie. She had, they didn't give us any names of the multiple personalities, but over a dozen. That is a very, very big number for any of you unfamiliar with multiple personality disorder. The activity in her room, she's very hands-on, if you will. Many people have said she's touched them, they feel a tingling sensation, feel like they're being grabbed, things of that nature. Down by the nurse's station, there is a shadow man that haunts the end of the hallway. Things as far as people have seen him, we're talking probably 15 feet of hallway, a large 7-foot tall figure coming down the hall in a matter of half a second. Interesting enough, there was a 7-foot tall mute patient in the room that this shadow person normally originates from. And he would frequently chase whoever would come to check on him out of the nurse's station, and he would chase them all the way down the hall and basically wouldn't stop until somebody entered the kitchen. That kind of became their safe space. If this guy came out of his room and chased them, they would go to the kitchen. For some reason, he would not enter the kitchen. On the other end of the nurse's station, there's another hallway, and at the end of that hallway, there is, I didn't get a name, but a body dysmorphic female. She was a wife of the man who had become enamored with the idea that she wasn't good enough or pretty enough for him. Basically, she was committed by her husband, and she stood in front of the mirror and tore her hair out over time. Lots of touching noises, things of that nature in that room. If you go upstairs on the second floor, there are several areas up here in rooms. The first one would be the captain's room and captain hallway area. The biggest thing I remember about that would have been somebody supposedly actually had a name scratched into their back. Let's see, right around the corner from that, you have a room known as Hank or Henry's room. There's a dresser in there with some clothing in it. Doesn't like women and does not like his clothes being messed with. Down from that, there is a room that housed a middle-aged woman, but she had the mind of an 8-year-old. There are lots of coloring books and toys of that nature. It's supposed to interact with you that way. She's referred to as Susie. And around the corner from that, commonly referred to as Inez's room. This is a pre-teen-aged girl. She passed away via hanging. Whether or not it was suicide, nobody really knows for sure. Then down the hall from them, there is an area has one room called 17 and another room called 18 right across from each other. One man in 18 was said to come out of that room after rounds being checked on, and he would go into 17 where there was another man, and he would abuse him in a sexual nature. Well, it's at the time period that this had happened, and some other things came to light, and we're not sure, but potentially they may have been a couple, but it was just covered up because, during that era, people didn't really accept that. And actually, tour guide told us that somebody had captured an EVP where somebody asked about that, and the EVP said that never happened. So take it for what it's worth. The truth we don't know for sure, but there's a lot of K2 spikes and EVPs in that area. Then, lastly, there's an attic. It's not very big. The stairs leading up to it are very small, and it's a very confined staircase. The attic itself not very big. The person that resides up there is male, a very angry personality. Doesn't like people to be up there. Will chase people out, supposedly. You'll get a very uneasy feeling in there, like you don't want to be in there, you want to get out. But does seem to like it when people offer him booze and tobacco. There's actually a little pile of booze and tobacco up there we noticed when we got up there. People hear a lot of footsteps, a lot of banging around in there. So after the tour, we got all set up. We busted out of our equipment, and specifically, we had an IR camera set up on the wheelchairs that move in the lounge area. We had a bullet camera and a laser grid and a motion light on the hallway where the Shadow Man supposedly comes for. The IR camera in the captain's room also showed the hallway, hoping to capture any movement or anything out of the ordinary in that area. We also had an IR camera in Hank's room on his clothes dresser, hopefully capture any movement there. We placed a stationary audio at the top of the stairs to hopefully capture noise throughout the whole building. The acoustics were strange, so noise did travel quite a distance. And we also put a stationary audio in the attic to capture a lot of the footsteps. I'd like to pause for a second just to plug our social media accounts. First off, our Facebook page. If you don't follow us already, I encourage you to do so. You can reach our Facebook page at www.ghostlyrip.org or www.ghostlyrip.org. That'll take you right to our Facebook page. You can also follow us on YouTube at Grip Paranormal. We post a lot of our findings and a lot of rundowns of the footage that we capture throughout the evening. So be sure to check those out. Give us a like, give us a follow. Getting back to the investigation, we started our audio before anything after we'd gotten set up. We started the audio to make sure we could catch anything that would happen as soon as we could go. We started that, and then we actually left the building to go get some food down the street. And while we were gone, strangely enough, we did have a pretty loud noise not far from the recorder at the top of the staircase. And that was probably within 10-15 minutes after we'd left. And it was probably another 10-15 minutes before we came back. Once we actually got to start investigating ourselves, myself and Jordan started in the attic. That's when we left our audio recorder in there. First we did a little EVP, EMF sweep in there. We weren't really getting anything specific happening. At first, we got up to leave, and the metal folding chair that I was sitting on, as we were going to the staircase to walk downstairs and leave, there was a ping type sound, almost like something had fallen from the ceiling. Thought maybe some plaster had given away, fallen onto the steel folding chair, and made this ping noise. Well, we looked around. We didn't see anything at first. There were a lot of rocks and other plastery type things on the floor, but we were able to recreate it somewhat with a small chunk of plaster, we think, but it it was good enough at the time, I guess. But strangely enough, I'd say probably 10 minutes after we did vacate the attic and went downstairs to another area, it happened again. And during that recording, you can't really hear anything fall off of the chair. It's almost as something flicked it with their finger. Now, if something falls and hits the chair but doesn't fall off, it should still be on the chair. But there was never anything on the chair. So that was an interesting little catch. Do want to take another closer look at it. Hopefully, we get a chance to go back someday. That's definitely one thing we would be looking for. After that, Janae and Jeff went to rooms 17 and 18, looked in the captain's room, that hallway area, and they did have some K2 spikes near the bed of the captain's room, but it wasn't spiking normally. It would go up to about halfway on the K2 meter and it would just hold there. Almost like it was just bad interference, not like it was actually interacting us. Hank's room after that, Janae even put on one of his shirts. Nothing specific really happened there. After that, myself and Jordan went into what they call Gracie's room, and we were probably in there for 5 minutes or so. Jordan wasn't really feeling anything. I was laying on the bed, and he wasn't feeling anything, and he's like, oh, we should probably get going, try another area. And I'm like, no, let's just wait a minute. I didn't say anything at first, but at the time it felt like a very light grazing of my shirt and pants, like almost like I was being touched. It was never, it was very subtle. It was never like a grab or a squeeze, but it was definitely some sort of sensation that felt like I was lightly being petted, if you will. Not long after that, Jordan started to sense the same thing, and we stayed in there for probably 20, 25 minutes and decided to send Jeff and Janae in. Didn't say a word about what we experienced, hoping that maybe one of them could have the same thing happen to them. When they went in, they were in for about 10 minutes. Nothing really happened. They came back, said, no, nothing really happened. So I took Jeff back in. I laid on the bed again, and it was dead calm. Nothing happened. It was nowhere near like it was the first time I had gone in there. So that was interesting. Definitely want to look at that one if we go back someday. After that, all four of us took the opportunity, went down to the Shadow Man hallway. We were probably in there for 45 minutes at least. Nothing really chased us or jumped out at us. The hallway, the way it's set up in a T intersection, basically, there are some small areas of light from both ends of hallway and the rooms that come from outside. The wallpaper, the way the light reflects off of that. Plus, if you have any light source IRs set up in there, which we did, it's very easy to have your eyes play tricks on you and have the subtle light shining from rooms and your equipment create shadows, create things in your mind that your eyes try to make sense of. So seeing things that aren't really there, very easy to have happen in that area. What we did capture while we were in there, let's see, at first our camcorder was supposed to have at least 30, 40 minutes of battery life yet. And out of nowhere, it just shut off for absolutely no reason. Died without any warning. Usually battery signal comes on. It says, hey, change out the battery. It just shut off like something drained the energy out of it. I had to go back, get a new battery. Came back, and we were all looking kind of in different areas. I was looking at the door which we came through. Jordan was looking down the hallway where the Shadow Man comes, and he thought somebody touched him. He thought maybe I'd brushed him as I was turning, but I was probably a good foot away from him. And as he was saying that, the motion light we had at the end of the hallway came on. And we were probably 10 to 15 feet away from the perimeter, which sets that off. We got it on our IR camera. Nothing shows up. The light just turns on all on its own. Nothing seems to have caused it. So that was an interesting event. After that, we sent Janae and Jeff into the attic, basically to get the audio recorder. It had been up there for probably 4 hours or so. They didn't last very long in there. Janae didn't have a very easy feeling. She was not a feeling of dread, maybe just like being watched, an uncomfortable feeling, if you will, but nothing other than that of note. After that, we split up again. Myself and Janae went to Inez's room. I think Jordan and Jeff had gone back to 17 and 18. They didn't really get anything there, so they came and followed us around the hallway where we were. We started getting K2 spikes, not in any specific room, but basically in the hallway adjacent from each room. And it was strange because the K2 normally goes up and falls back down, but it was exactly like it happened for Janae earlier. It goes up to a certain spot and it would just hold there. I could actually hold the K2 and turn it in one spot at do a complete 360 or 180, and it would stop if it was facing north, and it would turn back on if it was facing south. Almost like there was a magnetic pull in the air. So I don't know why. There's not really a lot of electricity. We didn't get any spikes really during our initial K2 sweep, but there's definitely some sort of magnetism, something in the air causing the K2 to do what it did. It was very strange. As we were making our way back down the hallway during this time, we were kind of by the captain's room. We were making our way back down to the lobby area, and as I was holding the camcorder, I felt what almost felt like a tug on the bottom of my sleeve, but nothing was there. I was actually in front of everybody, if memory serves correctly, but it was very subtle, just a light pulling of my sleeve. Nobody else had that happen. Don't know really how to explain that. After that, we worked our way back downstairs, and it was probably about 1:30 at that time, so we had to start wrapping things up. It was unfortunately a bad weather advisory in the area, and our 2-hour trip home was going to be a lot worse if we waited around any longer for it. So we packed up and we hit the road. Lucky enough, we got home before any of the bad stuff started to hit. Closing thoughts on the place, whether or not it's haunted, I would say it has a specific vibe to it. Certain areas more than others, an uneasiness, a heaviness in the air, a thickness, if you will. It comes and goes in certain areas, others are more pertinent. Overall, probably the one I was most impressed with would have been Gracie's room. The way the activity in there kind of came and went as it pleased. Really would like to know more about her specific history and what led her there, how she passed away, things of that nature. Maybe help explain what the activity was caused from. The Shadow Man hallway, touched on this before, but there's a lot of ways to create shadows in there. The way that people talk about it, though, it is very severe that when they encounter the Shadow Man. So we definitely didn't encounter what other people have seen. I think it's very explainable how they would have seen it, but like we have one night there, who are we to say what people see and what don't see? I would be comfortable saying a lot of the claims there, though, are chalked up to poor lighting, eyes playing tricks on you, angles, different things of that nature. Very easy to have your mind and eyes fool you and let you down in that area. The wife's room that pulled her hair out didn't have anything really there. Hank's room was very calm. We had nothing really happen there all night. Susie's room, not much happened. Inez's room, same thing. The attic man, that one perplexes me. The noises that we did hear that we couldn't explain. I would like to take another look at that on another visit. A lot of the scratching, footsteps, noises of that nature. We were able to chalk up the footsteps and the tapping and the scratching basically to a tree branch touching the wall on the outside of the house. We got to look at that and listen to it, and yeah, there's definitely a tree branch that taps and scratches the wall. So a lot of that can be attributed to that factor. The footsteps, I've actually heard some other EVPs that are definitely not a tree scratching, so that's why I'm leaning towards we just didn't have a lot of activity on our visit, but there might be something there. Overall, it is definitely a place I would like to go back and visit again. I have some ideas and plans on how we would go about setting up differently and areas that we would really want to cover harder on a second trip. And overall, I'd really like to go back sometime when we're not in the middle of a winter storm advisory. Hopefully, that way we wouldn't have to rush out of there in the middle of the night, and it'd be nice to not have to wear 3, 4 layers of clothing. uh, Overall, that's pretty much it for our first podcast. I hope everybody enjoyed it. We're almost finished reviewing all the footage and audio from the case. Have some things that stood out to us that we are going to be posting on Facebook and YouTube, so be on the lookout for that. Thanks again, everybody, for listening. Love to hear your feedback, and as always, replace your fear with curiosity.